Okay, thanks for wandering over, and we're going to talk quickly about Office 365 eDiscovery solutions. My name is Rocky Messing. I am Senior Program Manager with the Information Protection Team for Office 365, working on our compliance solutions, including eDiscovery. So if you look at what people are concerned with when it comes to moving data to the cloud, having data living in the cloud, security, compliance, transparency are the top three that we hear on a regular basis. And compliance, you'll see, is actually the most severe or serious concern that people have. So on the Office 365 Information Protection Team, we take building the compliance tools for our clients very, very seriously, providing you guys with ways to manage the various different compliance needs, everything from a small to the largest enterprise client. The way that we look at this is by providing solutions that cover the three different areas. We need to be able to keep the data, know that your data is secure, that when you need to get to data, that you know that it's actually going to be there. You need to have ways to actually identify and find that data, that when you have a need, whether that be litigation, investigation, whatever the need is where you have to actually get to the data, then we need to be able to provide you ways to actually now find the right data. And then lastly, you need to be able to know that no matter what activities are taking place against that data, that it's all monitored, it's tracked, it's audited, and that you're able to provide the right assurances to the right people that you are remaining compliant throughout the entire process. So, in terms of actually keeping the data and knowing that that data is there, the in-place governance features within Office 365 are where it all starts. Everything is being done in ways that we are keeping the data in the workloads where that data is being generated. So if you're using Exchange Online for your email, then instead of needing to archive that data out to a separate solution, you can keep that data in place, and even if someone edits it, deletes it, no matter what they do to that data, you know for sure that that data is still going to be retrievable. It's always going to be accessible on the back end. So we've got all kinds of different solutions to be able to make sure that that data is in place, and that doesn't matter whether you're using SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange, Skype, whatever the tools are that you're using, you know that that data is always going to be accessible. The big piece here is that it's always available and that it has zero impact to the end users. The end users don't have to change their behavior. They don't have to change the way that they act with the data. They are able to continue working exactly how they want to work. For the eDiscovery side of things, we've got various different tools that hit all kinds of different scenarios. So we're able to help from investigations, litigation, regulatory matters. When the government comes and says, we want to access your data and we need to get in, then we are not, meaning Microsoft is not going to allow them access to the data, but we want to make sure that you, when your legal team has authorized the access to the data, are actually able to provide the data in a self-service way. We're able to do it securely. We're able to do it where the users, whether that be you guys, the end users, legal team, compliance team, whoever it is, that they are able to go in, they're able to identify the data that actually has to be captured, they're able to identify the users, they're able to identify using keywords, date ranges, types of data, no matter what it is, they are able to search and query that data, and again, all of this is being done in place. So I'm not worried about having that data, additional copies sitting out somewhere in an archive. It's all within the Office 365 service. So, for anyone who is unaware, this is the eDiscovery reference model, which covers the workflow that is followed when it comes to investigations and litigation to be able to identify, preserve, identify, and get to the data. There are various different steps here, including the information management piece, which is all about data governance. How do I actually manage that data? How am I making sure that the right data is being kept and preserved at the right times, including the steps of preservation, meaning making sure that that data is secure and that when it comes to, for example, if the SEC comes and says, I need to see all of the email for these 15 users for the last 3 years, that you know that that data is going to be kept in place without it disappearing. I don't have to worry that they're going to come back and say, why didn't you keep this specific set of data? So tools to be able to do that. Tools to be able to actually analyze the data. We're going to walk through very quickly some of the advanced eDiscovery tools, which allow me to do additional analysis to help me to understand the data, to be able to find the correct data and get it out into the hands of the attorneys or the compliance officers who need to review it, and then produce that data to the other side. But we know today the process that's followed is that the volume of data on the left-hand side is great, and as I move forward in the process, the volume goes down, but the pieces of data that's actually kept there, that's actually going through that process, it becomes more and more relevant. The problem is today that when people are going through this process not in Office 365, they're pulling all of the data and sending it out of their off premises. They're sending it to the law firm, they're sending it to a service provider, wherever it's going. That's a massive amount of data that they're pulling out of their protected environment, sending it somewhere else for really no reason, because the relevant data doesn't get identified until later. So we want to be able to provide the tools to get to that relevant data and only send out of your environment the data that really truly has to be looked at by the attorneys. So the various different steps within the eDiscovery feature set that we provide today include the ability to, as I said, to preserve that data, to scope it, getting reports about who has the data, what data do they have, the volumes of data. When the attorneys come and they say, okay, please run the following 15 keywords against the data, being able to report back on what were those keywords hitting, what were the locations that had the data, who were the users across the entire tenant that may have had data that worked on a specific project, even if the attorneys or the investigators have no idea who those users were. So you can now search across all of your data at once to be able to find out who worked on any given specific project with a specific keyword during a specific date range. The ability to then go ahead and further filter that data, to bring the volume down, to go ahead and run all kinds of different advanced keyword queries, complex queries against the data, to again minimize the data as much as possible, to only get to the relevant set, using various different analytics tools, including deduplication, where I'm removing any exact copies of the data, so I'm only sending out a single copy of any given document. The ability to use threading to help reduce the volume by looking at the email conversations, and if something is contained within a longer thread, don't send out all 17 emails where people were going back and forth, just send out the last email that contains the entire thread. Minimize the data, reduce the costs. We also provide themes. Themes are a way to actually analyze and understand the data, giving me insight into what are the actual documents talking about. A lot of times when you have an investigator or an attorney who's looking at the data, who is pulling the data from the various different users, they're not working in that business group, they're not working on that team. They aren't necessarily an expert in what the team is even working on. They just know that I need to go ahead and find data for a specific topic. Well, giving you tools to actually analyze the data and understand what the topics are, what the themes that the users are actually discussing between them is really, really important. And lastly, providing that data in ways that's organized, ways that's processed in a format that is ready for review, so the attorneys can get into that data as quickly as possible. So, one of the big things within the Office 365 service is that all of the data is instantly indexed. So I don't have to go ahead when it comes time for an investigation. I don't have to wait in order to be able to build a search index for that data. We heard this morning that Satya, during the keynote, was talking about search. Search is essential in all of the different things that we do. So having that ability to be able to search that data instantly is really, really important. Making various different decisions on it to identify and find that data and pull it out in the right formats. The advanced eDiscovery toolset gives you additional tools to be able to find this data. Identifying various different relationships between data, using the predictive coding, which is machine learning to actually identify what is relevant within any given data set, is really, really important, and I'll show a couple of examples of how that works. So this is an example within the advanced eDiscovery tools of the email threading and near duplicate results. So an example on the near duplicates is, let's say I've got a Word document where I went ahead and I typed out that Word document. And then I went ahead and printed that Word document out to PDF. And then someone went ahead and then they printed to paper that PDF and then went ahead and scanned it. So now I've got 3 copies of basically the same exact document. But from a technical perspective, if I were to go ahead and say, are they the exact same document? The answer is no. Any of the tools out there that typically do deduplication to compare documents would say those documents have different hashes. They are not the exact same document. When it comes time now for the attorney to look at that data, they're going to look at 3 different copies of that data. And if those 3 copies are just mixed in with 100,000 other documents, they might look at document number 1 today, they might look at document number 2 next week, and document number 3 later in the afternoon of that same day, and they might make different decisions about the data. They're going to spend time on that data to review it, and the most expensive part of the entire eDiscovery process, which is, yes, it's a cost, it's a pain for corporations to have to do it, but the pain and the cost that we do from an IT side of eDiscovery is nothing in comparison to what the attorney cost is when it comes time to review it. So the fewer documents that we can put in front of the attorney, and when we have to put them in front of the attorney, the faster that they're able to review them by looking at all 3 of those different documents, which the content is basically exactly the same. They're not duplicates, but they're similar enough. They're able to review those documents a lot faster, make the same consistent decisions against that data, and come out with a much cheaper review than what it would have cost if I just went ahead and put those documents and gave them to them in a PST or in email or in the raw document formats. So the ability to minimize the data, get it down into the exact sets that I want is really, really important. The machine learning of the predictive coding allows the attorneys to actually start looking at documents within Office 365 without having to pull them out of the system and make decisions on them. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to define what is the issue that issues that they're looking for within this data set, and they're actually going to start going through and tagging the documents as being relevant or not relevant to that issue. So they'll see a document, they'll decide, yeah, that document is absolutely not relevant, it has nothing to do with what I'm actually looking for, but it might have a keyword in it that caused it still to come up. The system, when I'm talking about pure keyword searching, it has no way of knowing whether something's relevant or not, but the attorney who's looking at it would definitely know whether that's relevant or not. So they're going to go through, they're going to actually teach the system what are the documents that I consider to be relevant and what are the documents that I consider to be non-relevant. They're going to go through an iterative process where the system is actually tracking how they're doing, providing them feedback on, is the system learning well? Are you teaching it consistently? They'll keep going through that process over and over again to teach the document, giving it examples, because machine learning works based off of document examples that I'm able to provide. They'll keep teaching it until the point where the system reaches what we call stability, where the system says, you're good. I have learned, the machine, have learned everything that I can about this document set. I now have a good understanding of what you, the attorney, the investigator, the reviewer, the compliance officer, consider to be relevant or not relevant for this specific case. And now I'm going to have that classifier go out and tell you on all of the other documents within the system, are they likely to be relevant or not? So I've taught a machine learning classifier about what I consider to be relevant or not, and once I've done that, I'm able to then go ahead and with the scores of how likely documents are to be relevant or not, I am now able to make proportional decisions about my data. So let's say I ran a keyword search, it had 700,000 hits in it, which in a lot of cases today, that's a small amount of data. That amount of data is going to cost a couple $100,000 at least to have the attorneys look at that data and make decisions about it. Well, by teaching the system what is likely to be relevant or not, I am therefore able to say, instead of giving all 100%, all 700,000 of those documents over to the attorneys to review, let's just give them 20%. Am I going to have everything? Can I guarantee that all of the relevant documents are going to be there? No, actually I can pretty much guarantee that they're not all going to be there. But the legal requirements are not perfection. I don't have to find every single relevant document when it comes to a case. I have to do my best effort. I have to do a reasonable effort to identify those relevant documents. So in this case, I'd look at it and I'd say, okay, if I give them 20% of the data, I would find 84.6% of the relevant documents. And we also give you the cost. To review that 20% would cost you $135,000. Well, if this is a $50,000 case, am I going to spend $135,000 in attorney review? No matter how easy it might be to run searches, generate the data, get it out of the system, there's no point in doing that if it's going to cost me more than it would cost to just go ahead and pay out the full settlement. So in that case, I might say, you know what? I'm not exporting anything. I'm keeping my data safe and secure within Office 365, pay off the plaintiff, and walk away. On the other hand, if this is a $25 million case, I might say, you know what? Finding 85% of the data isn't even good enough. Maybe in that case, I want to find 90.4%. I want to go further, spend a little bit more money, spend $50,000 more to find more of the relevant documents, all based on the learning that the machine did and scored the documents based off of how likely relevant they are. So the bottom line here is that I can use the various different tools to determine what I want to review, what needs to be exported out of the system, and what can be kept within the system safe and secure within Office 365 as long as possible. So this was just a quick overview of some of the various different tools that we have within the Office 365 eDiscovery. We have 2 sessions on Wednesday, one at 9 a.m., where we're going to go much deeper into some of the tools. We're going to show some of the new tools that we've got coming out in order to help identify the data and talk about the roadmap. That's at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. And then at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we're going to have a session with EJ, who runs our eDiscovery within Microsoft, a use case scenarios. What does Microsoft do? What does the typical case at Microsoft Legal look like for eDiscovery, and how do we run the process internally, as well as a deep dive into some of the actual machine learning technology and what we're doing from a machine learning perspective. So thank you very much, and have a great day.